Hola, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beatty, alongside Eddie Cox on this Tuesday evening. Eddie, beautiful day out there today, man. I mean, we got a break from some of that cold weather. Feels like summer out there, Eddie.
Sure does. It was muggy yesterday morning, a little more than I would have liked it, but today it dried up a little bit and it's nice.
Yes, it is, man.
I could
Yes,
deal
it
with
is.
that, but I still I like that brisk weather, man. I want it to be just a little bit cooler.
Right.
It spoils me, man, when it's about 50. I
Hey,
think that's
but you
perfect.
okay, 50, but you don't want any of that Columbus, Ohio weather. I don't think you do, huh?
No,
40s,
hell
30s,
no, hell no.
20s.
Any place where you got to shovel snow to go to work, I'm out on that.
All right, man, I hear you, man. I love it. Anyway, the Buckeyes, Buckeye Nation, what's up? Even though it's not college football season, Eddie, we do see that they decided not to expand the college playoff to 12 teams until maybe before the 2026 season. So obviously they want more. Obviously the Rose Bowl and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, they have some concessions. They want everything to be more traditional, where they play on January 1st, things of that sort. They're still trying to get how they're going to distribute the money within all the schools. I think it would be, if they add some teams, it'll be at the least $1 billion profit, the playoffs, $1 billion profit every year. Right now it's at like 425 million, but obviously they're still trying to iron out some kinks about how they're going to distribute the money and who they want to get in as automatic qualifiers and things of that sort. And obviously when you just have four teams, Eddie, that adds to the drama every week. It keeps things interesting in the NCAA throughout the season, because it's only four teams getting in, so it only heightens the level of competition and importance for each one of these games.
Oh, I don't know, man. I couldn't disagree more. I think it
Okay.
makes it even more exciting when more teams are playing late into the year
Okay.
that have an opportunity for a postseason berth or have an opportunity to play for a national championship.
I'm saying I think that's how they're thinking, though, the other way, but I got you. I got you.
Yeah, you could make that case, but for me, if you've got, not necessarily your true big, probably top five schools every year you think could go in to win the national championship. Your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Clemsons, your Ohio States,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. When you get outside of that and then you get major fan bases of other college teams watching because their team still has a chance at a national title, it starts to take on almost an NCAA tournament kind of feel without having to stretch it out, as long as the NCAA, as long as, March Madness is. It takes on that feel, man, and that's a big deal. I mean, think about it. With Cincinnati, let's say you expand that field, so now maybe a school like a Cincinnati may get to play, I don't know, an Oregon or something in a playoff game and then win, and now that puts a non-power 5 school, sort of on the map with a playoff, not just berth, but win. And they can kind of set the stage for other schools, UCF and stuff like that, to work their way up and get involved in the college football playoff. I think they're missing out on a big opportunity here. It's eventually going to go that
Right.
way, but it seems like they're just pushing or kicking the can down the road as
Yes.
long as they can. And I couldn't disagree with doing that more.
Well, you know what it is, too? The fact that they're kicking it down the road, because they have the contract until 2026, I think it is. So what they have to do right now, I guess, is let that contract play out before they make any. And of course, they had meetings that last from some presidents that lasted up to 8 hours total in 3 days. So that shows you right there that they're not really serious about expanding before their contract is up. I mean, the thing about it is, I agree with you that it gives more teams, more young men, a chance to really compete for something and compete for a title. And it does do that in that regard. But again, they're trying to get the revenue sharing and all that in store and in place. And obviously, it's not as serious to them at this point. They figure they can go with this a few more years because, again, if you expand, like I said, you're going to be making, at the low end, $1 billion profit off that, whereas you're making 425 million now basically. And again, they're trying to square out how the money is going to be distributed and how everyone can eat in that regard. So I don't think they're trying to rush to anything right now, realizing that before the 2026 season, which is right around the corner, that they'll definitely make some concessions and do exactly what you're speaking of and what we're thinking about, helping the players and the coaches and other teams in that regard. So, and of course, there's the All-Star game, Eddie. The All-Star game was I don't know. I didn't watch. All I, the only thing I know is Steph Curry hit 16 threes. Man, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to watch a game. Now, maybe if I was a kid and you can impress me with all that, going behind your back and doing all this where nobody is playing defense, no one's competing. And that's for the kids. That game is for the younger people and for older people who actually enjoy just watching what they do. But if you're not out there competing at a high level, in my opinion, I have no use for it. You're not going to impress me with any kind of dunk you do or going behind the back. But again, the fourth quarter, they turned it up, and they did do some things. Now, that game was won by Team LeBron 163-160. LeBron, fittingly enough, hit the game winner with at the buzzer, back home in Cleveland, Akron, where he's from, but right back there in Cleveland, it was only fitting that happened. And, of course, Steph did his thing. 16 threes? No matter how they're competing and how they're doing things as far as a competitive standpoint, the fact of the matter is that the ball has to go through the hoop. And Steph, who was in that slump early on, the latter part of the first half of the season, Eddie, Steph just went out there and said, slump no more. Slump no more. Now, of course, it's an all-star game, but he's showing that was just what it was by his standards, a slump. 16 threes, the guy was special. And what they did, they divided it up, and it's orchestrated to go a certain way because you have those kids, the charities that they're giving to. The first quarter was won by one side that helped the charity of kids on one side. Then the second quarter was won by another that helped the charity on one side. So, again, they started playing in the fourth quarter, so kudos to them. I don't totally want to diminish the, that game. But, hey, it is what it is. The dunk contest was very disappointing. Congratulations to Obi Toppin, but
without a doubt, to me, the NBA continues to year after year just be the worst all-star experience as far as watching it on television. Now, when it comes to town, it's like any other event. There's a lot of fun things going on, a lot of stuff that you can do around the city. But as far as watching it, like you, I didn't give it the time of day. I couldn't have been less interested than I was.
Hey, real recognize real, bro.
And with the dunk contest, like everybody says, like we were speaking before the show here in the studio, the number one thing working against all these young guys is we've seen it all before. What would make it interesting, it would be, let's say if you got some
Especially
real
the dunk contest.
NBA heavy hitters in there dunking,
right?
And then now maybe you could see a young buck, take on a LeBron James,
right.
We're never going to get that.
And
so
you know why, Eddie?
To me, it's just unwatchable.
Yeah,
it's completely
true.
unwatchable.
I
it's not
agree,
like
bro.
how it used to be.
I agree. And talking about how it used to be, like in the days of Dr. J, Dominique Wilkins, as far as the dunk contest, I thought Jalen Green would be better. I thought he would come in and put on like a Kobe performance. And you remember when Kobe won it at 19 years old? I think he did it in his warm-ups, if I'm not mistaken. Jalen Green has that type of athleticism, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him blossom as a player and seeing the Rockets get better as a team as time goes on. But to your point, at this point, everything that's humanly possible has been done up to this point. There's only so much a human being can do in the air. And they've done everything, like you said, it's nothing that we're going to see anymore. They've jumped over cars with Blake Griffin. They've done this. They've jumped from the free throw line with Dr. J and Michael Jordan. And speaking of Dr. J, real quick, Dr. J, I saw something with him and Barkley, which is a great show the other day. I saw parts of that, and I need to watch it in its entirety. But that was a great interview by Charles Barkley interviewing Dr. J, a guy that was his teammate when Barkley first came into the league for the Philadelphia 76ers. But Dr. J, come on, man. You saw what he did in the dunk contest when he went from the free throw line, even though he's like a foot in front of the free throw line, him and Jordan both. But the fact of the matter is, if you get on the basketball court and you go to the free throw line and you just imagine flying from the free throw line, even if it is one step in, to the damn basketball goal, bro, that is unhuman-like. And to see Dr. J used to go off that left leg. You know what Dr. J said, Eddie? Dr. J said in the past, he said on something, he used to work, when he was younger, he had a something was wrong with one of his right leg or something like that. So he could never use his right leg, so he used to always use his left leg. That's why you see when all Dr. J dunks for the most part off that left leg. He say that left leg is like bionic, and he used to jump over benches and things like that and get on the swing and jump off the swing, and while he's in the air at the height of his powers while in the air from that swing release, he says he would envision himself flying through the air. And that and just working out, that's how he built that leg strength up to dunk the way he did, man. Then you look at somebody like Dominique, who was mainly a two-legged dunker. Dominique said the way he became a two-legged dunker was the way he really became that was not that he can't dunk off his one leg like Dr. J did, but the fact one time when he was in high school, and of course at Georgia they call him that was Darryl Griffith at Louisville, Dr. Dunkenstein. They called him the human highlight film or something like that. But in high school, he went up for a layup, and actually got in the air. And while he was getting physical contact, he actually was able to twist and turn it into a dunk. So he was like, that's when he realized, he was like, damn, okay, I can get some explosion with two legs. So that's what he did. But to your point, man, about the dunk contest, man, it's only so much that these guys can actually do at this point. But like you said, LeBron has never been in there, and I was going to bring that up. The fact that LeBron, you didn't have Ja Morant in there, so they need to up the ante to get these stars. Zach LaVine, of course, who's dealing with the knee injury. He was the last. Zach LaVine was the last one to really remind me of some of those all-time greats as far as sheer athleticism and just how graceful he looked in the air. But, of course, he's dealing with the knee injury. But there's only so much they can do right now, man. Until they up the ante and get some of these and I don't know if it's more pay, give more to charity, or something to up the ante to get these stars involved. We don't know what Zion is going to do. If Zion never going to come back and play, I'm sure he is, but Zion would have been explosive in that. LeBron has never competed in it, so even though he's the second best player to ever do it, between him and Kareem behind Jordan, that's something on his resume. The great high wire acts all competed in the dunk contest. Jordan, Kobe, Dr. J. LeBron never did. He's carving out his own path. Kudos to him. If he's never done it up to this point, obviously he's not going to do it. But that's the only way they're going to get this going there, is to up the ante.
And I really don't know how they do that. There's just no way to do it, in my opinion. You can't scratch the whole All-Star game. I like that they've tried to make it more interesting by, having players pick their teams and this, that, and the other, where you're not necessarily getting always an East-West showdown. You kind of you get a look at what players in the NBA are clicking up. This is where the beginning of the rumors of who's going to pair up or team up with who. You can even go all the way back to whenever Kyrie and Durant and, an All-Star game probably had something to do with that. And that's what this more – that's what I get out of this. Who picked who got picked last? Didn't James Harden get picked last?
I think he did. I think they were throwing shade at James Harden right there.
It gives you that format in particular, gives you a peek into how these players feel about each other personally.
Right,
and I think
right.
that is
exactly
the one
interesting
part about it. I'll say that. But other than that, man, it has no entertainment value or anything. All the scoring, it just doesn't even seem like they're really trying. Now,
for real, bro.
As far as, offense is on display, and it is a fun thing, but to me, it's not as exciting as, if you saw, like watching a mid-level college football game where it's 55-61 and 3-4 overtimes. Yeah. That kind of high scoring with no defense to me is a little bit different. But
I got you.
In the NBA, when you're just watching these guys basically get out of each other's way, to me, there's no entertainment.
100% agree, man. We are coming from the same ilk as far as I thinking in that regard. Speaking of college football, my my ex-teammate, he sent me a video. He sent me a video of one of our parties back in the day, and it used to be on VHS. Some way he got it to where it was classic. As a matter of fact, harking back real quick, the police came to my door, me and my roommate's apartment door, and was like, because one of the neighbors complained about how loud it was. Of course, we were banging some music, everybody in there kicking it, females, we're all in there kicking it or whatever. And Police come to the door. The police come to the door. Police come to the damn door. Asked us to cut it down. Eddie, when he came to the door, I opened the door, Eddie, and I ain't gonna lie. Hey, the sports court, you listen to the sports court, the show where we keep it 100% of the time. When he came to the door, and I opened the door because I didn't know who it was at the time, that weed just hit him in the. He stepped back like this. He was like, whoa. He was like, because I guess they called and said the Ohio State football players up there too loud or whatever.
Drinking them wines and smoking them tweeds.
Having fun. So I'm like, yeah. And he was like, and then before he was leaving, he was like, just tone it down, number 3. And I didn't know, now, obviously he was a football fan because I wasn't any All-American or anything like that. But he, it's in Columbus or whatever. And I guess he just assumed that I was the guy that owned the apartment with me and my roommate. And he said, just tone it down, number 3. Just turn it down. We were back. As soon as he left, boom, boom, boom. Now, that's what you call young and dumb right there. As soon as he left, boom, 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 turned it right back up, man. But a little blast from the past right there. But, hey, man, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens moving forward. We'll see what happens moving forward with the All-Star game if it can become more entertaining. And we shall see. Now, a lot of people loved it, and, of course, it's doing some things where they have some charity events. Of course, Joel Embiid, Eddie.
Look, real quick for the All-Star game, what's going to have to happen is guys like LeBron and guys that have been doing this a long time, they're going to have to move on and then get some of these young minds in here together and let them decide how they can make this more entertaining, how they can make it their own, how they can evolve it in the way that the NBA never has before. That's the only way that it happens, because as long as LeBron is the biggest, the biggest star and the centerpiece there, at the All-Star game, and they're the ones that everybody's focusing on, it's always going to have that era of the NBA feel, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's face it, we are at the end of that era, and there's a new era coming, and there's a Luka Doncic and
you know how I feel about Luka.
Exactly, and who's your boy over there for the Grizzlies?
Ja Morant.
There's plenty of good young talent. You need to let them take the reins on this thing and let them decide. Let them put their young minds together and figure out how to make this more entertaining. Because let's face it, if you can get this. If they can make it entertaining for the kids that are like, my kids' age from like 14, the high school kids on up, young adults, then all of a sudden it's going to pick up some steam because, you remember when we were kids, it was a big deal for us. We never missed it. I wouldn't miss the slam dunk contest.
It when we were kids.
But you got to make it appealing to the kids. And you can do that by having the younger generation figure out a way to get to them. Exactly.
Well, that, and I agree with that. And also, I think if you make it more realistic, the actual game itself, like back in the day, it was competitive throughout. Those guys used to go out and compete from the opening whistle, and the game was more entertaining at that point as well, because even though you're a kid, you still realize the competitive nature of what's going on out there and what you're watching right there, and that just adds to it, that adds that value to it and adds that credibility to it, even if you know the meaning of credibility at that time. But it just does something. So if Ja Morant and those guys can actually become more involved, like you said, and actually take it more seriously, but also not only promote it better, but actually win there between the white lines and actually competing. And as far as Ja Morant, he maybe should have been in the dunk contest. Let me say this real quick about Ja Morant, too. Ja Morant, I think the elevation of Ja Morant this season and what he's doing in Memphis is going to be a problem. I picked Golden State, and we can talk about that later. We talk about Golden State every week. I find a way to get some Golden State Warriors talk in. I mean, come on now. It's Steph Curry and Golden State and Clay and all those guys. But kudos to Andrew Wiggins for playing in his first All-Star game. But Ja Morant, I think what Ja Morant has done this season, the way he's elevated his game and his name, I think the latter part of the first half of the season and moving forward, I think that only bodes well for Luka Doncic. And you see, once he got in shape, I think that really sparked Luka as well. Luka was like, hold on, I'm only 22 years old, and I'm Luka the Don. And let me give you this 49 piece, and let me give you this 50 piece, and let me give you this triple double. Luka is like, and I'm 6'8", 240. So any of these point guards that y'all talking about, when we get head-to-head competition, I want to see if you're going to put them on me and let them guard me when I post their little ass up down low in the post and take them to the rack. So Luka's like, I think Luka has been rejuvenated as well. And you see him playing now. I think Memphis has a better overall team. Of course, the Mavs do not have Porzingis anymore. He's gone to Washington. I don't know about that trade. You have Hardaway Jr. out. But Lucas, as far as his individual play, now, of course, he's going to have to do it in the playoffs where he's going to have some help and things of that sort. So I don't think Dallas is better than Memphis as a team right now. All I'm saying is I think the emergence of Ja Morant has really elevated Luka's play and gotten Luka back re-engaged and just excited again about playing some basketball. So, hey, we shall see, man. I mean, so the NBA season, of course, they're off until Thursday, Eddie. They're off until Thursday. Now, we can come back and revisit some NBA talk, of course.
Well, let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
How influential do you think JJ Redick's voice is around the NBA, and how seriously or how much do you put on, the take that JJ has that Zion Williamson has sort of abandoned his responsibility as a teammate? He's battled through some injuries. He's got the foot injury this year. But there's a sense that he is, absent from a lot of team responsibility and a lot of the day-to-day stuff that that teammates go through together. And I don't know firsthand. I don't know what goes on behind scenes in New Orleans locker room or on their practice facility and whatnot. But I do know this. JJ Redick did it and played for a long time. He's very talented. He understands team concept because a lot of really good teams had him, as a part of them, deep in the game. So he's seen guys come into the league with high expectations and has seen how those have worked out and has also seen how they haven't worked out. He's been around guys like Joel Embiid in Philly and whatnot. Zion Williamson, I mean, early on when he first came, when he was first drafted, lots of high hopes, lots of potential. I mean, almost like a golden boy aura around him, where everybody was in love with the smile and what he could do, and
Since
what
LeBron,
was done in
he
the
was the next one
NCAA
after
tournament.
LeBron.
And if this
High wire act,
if this take is true, where does this leave Zion to go from here with all that talent? And if he's not like the guy that you could build a team around, if he doesn't have that, gel a team type leadership nature in him, how much does that hurt his stock going forward? And where does that put the ceiling on a guy who we thought, like you just said, could be as good or better than the second greatest player of all time?
Here's the thing with Zion, in my opinion. And, of course, J.J. Redick has his opinion. And I'm like you. I have no idea what's going on with the Pelicans. I think part of that is Zion wanting to go elsewhere. I don't really think he sees his future in New Orleans as far as being able to compete for a championship. Now, as far as him this season, obviously that foot is not ready yet. I think he may just realize that even if he does come back this season, yes, he's a competitor. And I think when he's engaged, obviously he's not engaged with this team. I think he leads by example and from his hard work and his talent in the way he can put his team on his back. And he was only going to get better, and he's still going to get better as a player. So I believe in Zion. The only question with Zion right now, Eddie, in my opinion, is, for one, I don't think he's happy in New Orleans, and I think he's letting it play out by doing some of the things that he's doing by disassociating himself with his teammates, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. Now, granted, I hear that he hasn't said anything to McCollum since McCollum has been there. Now, you being the leader of that team, even though you're out with injury, and of course you have Brandon Ingram on that team as well, I mean, that's not a good look. You still want to welcome the guy in, and I mean, I don't want to go off on this, but that's the same way I felt about LeBron when they drafted Wiggins #1 with Cleveland, when, of course, LeBron didn't owe him anything, but with that guy coming into the system, coming into your town, your city, I mean, coming in as a high school phenom, hyped like you were, you should put yourself, I would have thought LeBron would have put himself in Andrew Wiggins' shoes, and even though you wanted to call yourself upgrading at the time with Kevin Love, I think at the least you could have welcomed Andre welcomed Andrew Wiggins. Hey, man, I've been a number 1 pick. This is what it's going to be like. Welcome to Cleveland, blah, blah, blah. But, hey, I'll be honest, I want to go this direction and that direction. No offense to you, kudos to you. But just welcome him in, man. For him to not even acknowledge Andrew Wiggins after he's really, even though he's from Canada, but after he's pretty much traveled some of the same path that you have, I didn't like that. So the same in that situation right there with Zion, you just welcome the guy in with open arms, even if you do have other intentions moving forward.
As far as it goes with C.J. McCollum.
With C.J. McCollum,
Right.
yeah, right. And so that's not a good look. Now, I think he has to get healthy. First of all, and I think he's taking this whole season to get healthy, and he has to stay in shape. But it's only so much he can do if he has a broken foot. So to your question, where does he go from here? I think Zion Williamson is going to be a great NBA player if that foot holds up and he's healthy and he's 100%. I think he's still going to be a great NBA player who his teammates love playing with.
Well, the question exactly is like, how do you assess what his ceiling is now? We thought his ceiling could be, maybe the second greatest player of all time. I don't think it's there anymore.
I don't know if it was ever the second.
Well, I mean, if you said he could be, if his ceiling is the next LeBron James, then I'd have to say that would be he could be as good as. That's why I say the second greatest player of all time.
But if you think about his game, Eddie, not to cut you off real quick, but if you think about his game. Of course, his game and LeBron's game, and you remember when he was in college. When he was in college, his passing skills were underrated. And I came on the show and I took notice of his passing skills and of his playmaking ability, even though he was not their point guard. But I saw the times when they delegated that responsibility to him, even at Duke. The possessions that they did. I saw his basketball IQ. I saw the way he could handle the rock. His ball handling ability was better than a lot of people gave him credit for, and his playmaking ability was as well. Now, of course, he was a guy that fit. Now, his game is different than LeBron's in the sense LeBron had more of an outside game when he first came into the league, even though he was super athletic, getting to the rim and things of that sort. Zion, I mean, he's like Shaq up under the backboard, but he's 6'6". He's like Shaq. His efficiency rate just living in the paint is crazy. So if he gets healthy and he elevates that 3-point shot, of course, he becomes more of a mid-range. He has a mid-range game, and of course he has the body and the athleticism to be a great defensive player. It's all about him staying healthy and keeping his weight under control. And I don't think his weight being out of control at times. He's just a big boy. He's a big boy, and I think that has a lot to do with. Whenever he gets nicked up and whenever he gets injured, of course you can't work out the way you want to. But he just has to get healthy, and I think the sky's still the limit for Zion.
Look, for me with him, it's not about talent. That's the thing. You evaluate.
I think he has the right attitude,
at the age coming into the. He was coming into the league. You evaluate the talent there. You're evaluating what he can become. And the probability that he could become that. To me, the reason this is troubling, because whenever I think about greatness in the NBA, I know that you cannot cross through this, this sport, play on that court, and retire and not be judged based on how many championships you won, how many finals you played in, and how dominant or good you were in the playoffs. And in order to do that, in order to be considered great like that, you have to be one of the great leaders. We've seen LeBron James carry teams, Kobe carry teams, Michael Jordan, just say his name. Everybody knows what he did. For Williamson to be on this level, he has to be, to his teammates what those guys were to his teammates. And this behavior, where you look at where Reddit quotes about, he's a detached teammate. Mm-hmm. And even, like you mentioned in your comment early on, maybe, and that's fine. But whenever you learn as you watch these players, there are several different factors that are going to play into how great these guys ultimately become. When James Harden was really developing into the superstar with Houston, I think you could have very easily, it wouldn't have even been going out on a limb and say, hey, this guy is going to win championships the way that he's playing. But whenever you got to learn more about James and the more time you spent around him, you learned that in the long run, it's more of a long shot that he wins a championship than it is that he, gets close but never gets there.
Right.
And because he doesn't have that connection with his teammates, he has burned these bridges.
In the playoffs.
And you mentioned in your comment with Williamson, maybe he feels like he can't win there. When have guys come in the NBA, like studs come in the NBA, and just decided within the first couple years, not to mention he hadn't even been on the court the entire time, that all of a sudden they can't win there? Usually those type of players that are supposed to get to the
take it
level
like
that
this.
he's been predicted to get to, those type of players take matters into their own hands, and
Let me
they
tell you.
find a way to try to get those teams at
Right.
least into the
Eddie,
conversation for the playoffs.
Now I remember when Jordan broke his foot with the Bulls in his second season, he was out. He was disattached from the team until he got ready to come back. He was on the sideline a few times. Now we both know that when Zion Williamson is healthy, he leads by example, and he's actually a very, very hard worker. I agree that's why I said when McCollum comes in, you should at least ingratiate him or endear him to and welcome him in with open arms, even if you do have other plans about moving forward and moving on. I just think with Zion right now, he has 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door. And the thing about it is, also with him, as far as his loyalty to them only being there a few years, and him being a young guy and wanting to, why can't he do like those other guys and just, be a leader right there? Again, I think if he was actually playing, you would see that side of it, because from just the way he competes on the floor, he would gravitate to a lot of his teammates. A lot of his teammates would gravitate to him in that regard, and he would be more engaged with them because he would have to be around them every day, traveling and things of that sort. I just think with Zion, as far as long-term in New Orleans, I'm sure he probably feels New Orleans is a great city, and nothing against New Orleans. But Zion feels when he's healthy, he's box office. So I think what Zion wants to do, he wants to maximize his potential as far as he wants to be in New York or somewhere like that. So, he's probably going about it the wrong way in a lot of ways, but that's just him having 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out of the door, and mainly with him just actually being away from the team because of injury as well.
I just don't think he's done enough to really to feel that way. About New Orleans. I don't think
some monster years when he's played.
You look at it, it's when he's played. He hasn't strung together these, great seasons.
About Anthony Davis too.
And I keep comparing him to James Harden. Maybe it's not fair, but James was ramming his head into a wall over and over again and putting up MVP numbers year after year before finally he was like, screw this, it's not going to happen here in Houston. Zion hasn't seemed to be able to string those types of seasons together where, hey, you feel like this team really gave it its best shot. We gave it everything we had, and we never got over the hump. I don't see that happening in New Orleans yet. And I know he does, but there's just something there's something that rubs me the wrong way about this version of the NBA where players are so quick to all of a sudden, and then that's one thing too. It's no fault of his own, but maybe you need to sit back and think about, hey, whenever I can stay healthy for 82 games and really help a team win, then maybe I can start dictating where I want to play basketball and what stage I could do it on.
That's what superstars do.
I get that's what superstars do, but to me, he hasn't done enough. A couple of seasons where you're stringing together 20 good games here, 20 good when he's on the court.
We could have said the same thing about Kyrie, but that's what the number one picks and the superstars do. I get it. And he hasn't, and a lot of that has to do with injury. When he's been on the court, he's dominated on the court. So to your point about him not having done enough.
That's not what all superstars do. A lot of superstars, they get to the cusp and they, like I said, they realize this team at its best isn't going to get there. They aren't looking when all the effort hasn't been. We just saw it happen with LeBron James,
in all these sports
with
now,
Harden,
for his quarterbacks, for his players. Now they have the leverage now, and that's just him. That's just a sign of the times. That's just Zion. That's him exercising his leverage. And I agree. Maybe he's going about it the wrong way in a lot of regards. Again, I thought he should have welcomed McCollum with open arms. And you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Some of these guys are probably talking. Obviously, he hasn't talked to McCollum. But who knows? JJ Redick doesn't know. Is he just totally disengaged from his teammates completely where he's not talking to anybody? Do we have any teammates that's come out and said that? Or is that just a report that he's disengaged and he hasn't talked to any of his teammates? How do we know that? I hadn't heard Brandon Ingram say that. I hadn't heard nobody else say that. But somebody anonymously comes out and says that. Now all of a sudden Zion Williamson is a bad guy.
It's not anonymous. It's JJ Redick.
They knew before he got – no, not at all. They knew before he got injured when he was playing at a high level that he saw the direction that the Pelicans were going in. They have a new coach again this season, and he's just being honest with them, being straight up. Either y'all get y'all shit together or I'm bouncing and I'm going to a big market. Simple as that. Hate on me all you want. Call me the bad guy. Do what you want to do. At the end of the day, I don't give a damn because I got to live my life just like y'all living out y'all life, and y'all was bringing in these damn players.
Hey,
that's not
players
helping
that
the team
think
win
like
under
that
Brandon
before
Ingram.
putting the
And
skins
under
on the
Brandon
wall.
Ingram.
Players that think like that before putting skins on the wall,
I'm not
before
saying
putting
that's how
legitimate
he's thinking,
all
but
NBA
that's
season
how he's
teams
thinking.
together. That's not an attitude or a mindset that wins championships. I promise you
I
that
got
right
you.
now.
Hey,
no matter where he
well,
goes,
a lot
big
of these
stage,
guys
little
that come
stage.
into
If you
the
can't
league,
show up on the
a
little
lot of
stage,
these guys,
what are you going to do in
he's
Madison Square
injured.
Garden?
He's injured.
They're going.
Let's talk about it when he's playing
Yeah,
and when he's healthy.
and when there's 2-3 seasons that he's injured into a 4-year
Okay,
max deal
well,
in
that's
New
a different
York,
story.
they're gonna run him out of
Well,
town.
that's a different story. Oh well, I'm sure he's aware, just like Ben Simmons has to
They've
be aware.
run
He's
plenty-
talking about,
they've run
just like
plenty
Ben
of guys
Simmons,
out of town.
Yeah, just like Ben Simmons, he has to be aware. He's like, oh, well, I'm going to Brooklyn and all this and that. Yeah, it's not the New York Knicks, but if you're, and I hope he gets well mentally. If he's really mentally unstable, or whatever, obviously, in all seriousness, I hope he gets well mentally. I really do. I honestly do. But at the end of the day, if he gets down to Brooklyn and he's scared to shoot the ball and do all this and that in New York City, you think you're going to get some press? You worried about Philly. You got your little feelings hurt because the Philadelphia 76ers fans, they got on you, and you don't want to show up and you don't want to play all season. Like I said, I'm not trying to bash the guy if he's really mentally unstable. But all of a sudden, you're the one who get under the basket and you don't take a damn, and I know I'm going off on a tangent right here, but you get under the basket and you don't take a free layup in the playoffs, what you expect them to do? Cheer you? Bro, dude, I mean, get a grip, bro. And and then you're going to sit out the whole season? Well, I don't want to play in Philly, blah, 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 blah. Joel Embiid this, Joel Embiid that. Man, go out there and play. Let your play speak for itself. Evolve your damn game. Shoot the damn ball. He acts like he's scared to shoot the ball. I mean, yeah, you're a great defensive player. You do all these other things. But when you go to Brooklyn, again, now you have shooters around you now. You have shooters around. You have Kevin Durant. You have Kyrie. You have Joe Harris when he comes back. You have other shooters, so you can beat Ben Simmons. But it's going to become a time where teams are going to lag off of you in the playoffs, and they're going to say, shoot the ball. And until you're mentally strong enough to shoot the damn basketball and at least give yourself a chance for the ball to go in the hoop, I mean, that's how it's going to be. So when you go to Brooklyn and New York, you're going to get the same press, to your point, if not more. So these guys, they have to know that. They have to, man, this damn water tastes like steak right now. It's hot in here. Hey, shit, have you ever been to?
I just think, Greg,
Speaking of water, you ever been, back in the day or times where, back in the day when your money was kind of tight or something, you go out for breakfast and you order your food and all you get is water, knowing damn well you want orange juice. Then you be looking at the orange juice over there with somebody else. They drinking orange juice. You take it out on orange juice like, damn, orange juice. But no, man, but make your point, though, bro.
You got to give me the water to go along with it, especially if I'm hungover. No, but I think I think the situation that you're talking about, and talking about Zion and the possibility of where his mind's at and everything, and after everything we've seen go on with the James Harden situation, it's just got me thinking, man. Like, there's a reason why there's such a toxic environment on so many NBA teams. And you look at teams that are built a different way and that are run a different way, like the Suns. And we're going to talk about Chris Paul and his injured Paul, P-A-W, and how he's going to miss some time.
I like that, Eddie.
But you look at a team that's built like how the Suns are built, and you see how they operate. You look at a team built like how the Bucks are built, and you see how they operate. And you see that there's that toxicity doesn't exist like it does when you get these veteran superstars or these guys that get it in their mind that they deserve to play with and who they want to, when they want to. You put all them together, and then you just hope that it works. It's like throwing a bunch of stuff that you like, a bunch of foods that you like. I like Oreos, I like peanut butter, I like hamburger meat. I'm gonna throw it all together, and I'm gonna see how it tastes. And
hold on, real quick.
It doesn't always come off.
You see this new stuff they have right now, McDonald's menu, and I mean all this fish and chicken and this. Bro, who's gonna eat that mess, man?
Well, you have to buy it and put it together yourself. You don't. They won't make it like that for you.
Okay.
You have to build it yourself.
Okay, but go ahead though with your point.
Kind of had me lose my train of thought there. But basically, it's just saying that there is a toxic environment, and it has a lot to do with players dictating who they want to play with and where they want to go. And I get it. They have power. They are the talent. But there's a reason why the teams that are built that way have such a hard time finding success, even to the way the Rockets were built under James Harden, all the trades that were made without enough emphasis on the draft and building young talent and building a culture in your building. I know that's a word I'm going to steal from NFL analysis, but if you don't have that culture in your building, or you just don't have one of the 2 or 3 best players in the world that can carry your team to a championship, guess what? You're not getting there.
I 100% agree.
It's just not happening. And you can put together all the.
I agree.
You can put together the 3 best players in the world.
Even Brooklyn.
I mean, think about it. Durant,
That's
Kyrie,
obvious.
and Harden. That should have been automatic championship when you think about it.
Yeah.
Automatic, but. The thing about it is the environment is too toxic because these players care more. They don't care about winning as much as they care about self-promotion.
I 100% agree. Hey, and they should have had all that hashed out. That's why when Harden, you remember when we talked about it when Harden and Westbrook, when they linked up together, and we were talking about how they grew up together and things like that. And at this point in their career, they both just want to win. And of course, James Harden showed, of course, when that's all cute. That sounds all cute at the time. And then once they actually start playing together, when things go awry, how do they handle the adversity? How do they handle not getting the same amount of touches as this other person? How do they handle not getting the same amount of attention as this other person? So it all sounds cute on the surface before they link up and actually play together. And if you're not one of those guys that has a mindset like, I'm going in it, and I'm going in it to just fit in, and I'm not going to step on any toes. I just want to get in where I fit in and actually do my thing. And then if you have the right attitude and we're all here for one common goal, and then that's what makes a championship team. I mean, if you look at Russell Westbrook, now we've been hard on Russell Westbrook. Trust me, we have been. And the thing about it is he's just never been a fit with the Lakers. I mean, we talk about LeBron. We know LeBron is still playing at a very high level at the age of 37. I think a lot of this season, LeBron wants his 5th championship. He wants to tie Kobe. But LeBron is a realist. He realizes that with this team as currently constructed, the Lakers who didn't make any moves during the trade deadline, so of course LeBron is giving subtle messages now about how he may want to return back to Cleveland and this and that. I mean, that's just what they do. But the thing about it is, you take a guy like Russell Westbrook.
The gig's up in L.A. I really feel that way. I think
LeBron now is just more
course.
About how can I add to my stats? How can I get closer to Kareem? I think this season LeBron is like, of course he's going to go out and compete because that's just in his nature, and he's going to go out and compete because he knows he's one of those players in the ilk of a Kobe and Magic, and LeBron is a traditionalist. So he realizes that the people, no matter if he's on the road or at home, they come to see him play basketball, and so he's going to give the fans what they want. But at the same time, that Russell Westbrook fit, and a lot of that is at the behest of LeBron James, a lot of the players that's on that team. Of course, he's been his own GM for the last number of years now, for the most part. But what I'm saying about Russell Westbrook
but he didn't get his way this time because he wanted John Wall. He didn't get his he wanted John Wall back. I mean, I think the fact that they didn't trade for John Wall and trade a first-round pick and Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets for John Wall, I think that's the beginning of the end, and that's why LeBron's going to move on from L.A.
And I think that, Eddie, you know what? And I think that's why he went to the media and in his passive-aggressive way just took some clever, subtle shots at the Lakers and by saying that he's not ruling out returning to Cleveland.
And at the same time,
he's playing with his son and things like that.
At the same time, Greg, I almost got to applaud the Lakers, for standing their ground and saying, hey, we went all in with LeBron James. We traded for Anthony Davis. We won an NBA championship. We're not going to start mortgaging our future to try to maybe squeeze one more title out of this whenever we know once the jig is up and LeBron is gone, the cupboard is bare to rebuild. They don't want that, and I can understand that because you never know, like we're talking about right now, at the drop of a hat, LeBron James could change his mind and want to go play somewhere else, and all he has to do is put his foot down, and he's going to either get traded or whatever. They're going to make it work. He's going to go wherever he's. The guy has he always has a way out of his contract. So he can get where he wants to go. And at Los Angeles, they're just not going to, put themselves in a situation where once he leaves, there is absolutely nothing left to work with.
Well,
then how long does it take you to bounce back to where you're even relevant again?
Yeah, and the hope was, but now, and that puts the Lakers in a precarious situation all the way around because they were banking on Anthony Davis. They were banking on LeBron at this point, taking a backseat to Anthony Davis. But they see they can't depend on Anthony Davis, so now they may have to entertain some offers for Anthony Davis and just really tear it all up and just really start building from scratch. Because if they feel, to your point about, building things back up eventually or whatever from LeBron, this offseason, Anthony Davis, he's not going to be worth more than he is now because he's going to continue to get injured during the season. So you may want to look at trading him for DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges. I saw that thrown out there somewhere where you trade Anthony Davis for those two, and then, of course, in Phoenix, you pair him with Chris Paul, again, who's out for a significant amount of time with the hand injury. So we'll see what happens in the standings in the Western Conference with Phoenix. Phoenix has been balling. But then you pair Anthony Davis, a guy, and he's going to give you a different element than your boy Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is going to give you a different element than Ayton. Even though Ayton has been playing very well, and I liked him a lot coming out of college, I thought he could be a franchise-type player. He's not quite a franchise type of center. He's averaging 16 points a game. But he's a very good center who's going to be an all-star at some point. But he's not a Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, franchise-changing center, especially the way they play in Phoenix at this point. So you insert Anthony Davis right there in Phoenix, it gives him a change of scenery. It gives him a chance to, now you have a more wide open type of game, and Anthony Davis is the type of guy that can come out, pick and pop, shoot the three, take the ball off the dribble to the basket. Of course, with DeAndre Ayton, he's just pretty much going to post up and be working down low. He's not one of those centers who has a game that can stretch outside. So, and of course, what you can get with Anthony Davis as far as on the defensive end. But see, that's what's wrong with the Lakers this year. They don't have that defensive prowess and that defensive intensity. And my point I was making was, I think LeBron at this point is a realist, realizing the Lakers are not going to. They may not even make it to the playoffs this year. And if they don't, he's probably already resigned himself to the fact, okay, well, it wasn't meant to me for me to make it to the playoffs this year, so maybe I can get some rest and come back strong next season. LeBron is always looking ahead anyway, and he's going to keep his body in tremendous, tremendous shape. But as far as Russell Westbrook, I kind of hate to pile on Russell Westbrook the way I do because it's obvious the guy just doesn't have a jump shot. And one thing, the reason I respect and the reason I've lightened up on Russell Westbrook as of late, because he's not trying to miss those shots. The shots are just not going in. He's not a shooter. And I've seen games where he's like, okay, well, let me abandon the shot and try to get to the basket. And again, you're playing with Anthony Davis, you're playing with LeBron James. So I think Russell Westbrook, to harken back to what we were talking about guys wanting to play together, I think when he came to L.A., I think at this point in his career, he really just wants to fit in, and he wishes he could still be that superstar that he was when he pretty much had the ball in his hand most of the time and pretty much running the teams he was on. But I think he's resigned himself to the fact that that's not going to be the case in Los Angeles. I was surprised that they didn't make a move for Russell Westbrook, but Russell Westbrook, the reason I respect Russell Westbrook, he brings his hard hat every night. He never takes games off, and the media could dog him and talk about he can't shoot and this and that. If he's open, he's going to take the shot, unlike Ben Simmons, who's scared to even take the shot. So Russell Westbrook has a heart, man. He's a dog, and of course, he makes a lot of mistakes, and a lot of those are hustle plays. That's just Russell Westbrook. But as far as how it bodes with the Lakers this season, and again, if they all get back healthy, I don't never want to count a LeBron James-led team completely out. You have 3 Hall of Famers right there, not to mention a 4th in Carmelo Anthony, and all you need from him is, about 14 to 15 points, and just let him
that's it, just 14 to 15.
Hey, that's it. At this point in his career, because you can't expect Carmelo to be the player that he was in Denver or early on when he was playing. He's like the 4th option right now on that basketball team. So you need him when he gets in the game, when Carmelo gets in the game, you need him to be that Hall of Fame scoring threat when the opportunity presents itself to really give those guys more depth. But I just don't think the Lakers, and we said before the season,
he's giving you 13.
That's the senior citizens team right there.
He's giving you 13 and a half points a game, already. So he's giving you that right now, and the results still
when he's on the
not
floor.
There.
When he's on the floor.
And Russell was never it was never a fit. It was just
Yeah.
try to get another talented, basketball player in here because they had been hemorrhaging talent over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
trying to keep this, top heavy duo of Anthony Davis and LeBron James together.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, man, the thing about it is, again, if it was somebody like Memphis, who is ascending, and they're in a position where, like I said, man, I pick Golden State, but Memphis is a problem over there in the West. Memphis is a problem, and they just keep ascending. They keep ascending, and Memphis is a team to be reckoned with in these playoffs. The Lakers, again, I don't want to count out a LeBron James-led team, but again, I think LeBron James at this point is like, hey, well, you know what? Okay, well, let me get mine, and I'll get closer to Kareem and all these numbers and assists and things like that.
Hey, you know what? I vaguely I didn't mean to leave out when I was talking about Zion Williamson, and I was reminded by you bringing up Memphis and John Morant is whenever you start hearing rumblings and rumors coming out about a guy's dedication to his teammates, dedication to basketball and stuff like that, dedication maybe even to the team that that drafted him, it makes you question how much they really love to compete. And that drive, that innate competitor in them is what really drives a lot of the great ones. I mean, when you go back to,
we know Zion is a competitor.
I get
We know
that.
Zion is a
But
competitor
when you look at what John Morant has been able to do, put his head down. It wasn't easy. Nobody gave anything to him. Wasn't like he started winning right out of the gate. Now look at what they're doing.
But but what John Morant was able to see was, and not to really, again, I'm not in these guys' heads, and they're both in two different spots right now. What John Morant was able to see in that situation, and kudos to John Morant. I agree with you on that, but there's two totally different situations when John Morant sees that he has a coach, a head coach, a stable head coach, and a roster, even when they were not winning at a high level, he was able to recognize and peep game and look at the big picture and really see that their best days was ahead of them, and he was in a town like Memphis, that he could actually bring together a close-knit family, close-knit community, and he realized, hey, you know what? I can do something special in Memphis. I can do something special in Memphis, and with the team and the roster that we're building and the talent that we have on this team, with the coaching staff we have, I think Ja was always excited about the future prospects, and I just don't think that's the case.
You know what I believe? I believe that no matter who was there or where he went, we'd be talking about whatever team that was being in the position the Grizzlies are right now.
Well, maybe.
Because he didn't have to go in and look and say, hey, I see this there, I see that there. He said, Ja's going there. Ja's going there, and this is what's going to happen.
New Orleans?
And teams are going. Hey, and there's the thing that they're right there, on the bubble, playing for a playoff spot in the bubble.
It's on him and Ingram.
There was an opportunity there for him to get some of that experience and to make some things happen. It didn't work out, for Zion Williamson. But to me, those are the two guys that you look at. One and two right now.
10 years.
Hey, I get that, but I'm saying like it's still whenever you're displaying these type of characteristics, people question how much you really love basketball, how much you really love competing.
They question we know.
Do I want to make this team good, or do I want to go somewhere where everything's already set up for me to be good?
Let's get that out of the way right now.
Because Memphis wasn't that for Ja.
About him competing, because we know when Zion is healthy, is on the floor, he brings it more than anybody.
Yeah, when he's healthy, when it's easy, when everything's lining up for him.
That's what I'm saying. Okay,
I want somebody who makes their own way like Ja has. We could go back. I remember we talked about before that draft. Should teams consider John Morant over Zion? Remember we talked about that.
I'm a John Morant fan,
hey,
bro.
I think if you could go back and do it, I think they might pick Ja over Zion Williamson.
Again, there's two different circumstances right there, and we could say what we think John Morant might do and what we think. I'm sure if Zion was over there with Memphis too, and he was injured right now, I bet Zion will be on his best behavior too, realizing he's on a damn good team. Now let's not make like John Morant.
You can't throw injury out there like you can't that it doesn't have any weight to it. Injury counts.
Let me finish.
You got to be available.
Let me finish. And then at the same time, you got Zion, you got John Morant over there. Let's not act like Zion is some quiet guy who's not going to speak his mind. I guarantee you, if Zion was in a situation where he wanted out, now he was raised great, and from all accounts, Zion was raised great just like Ja Morant. But these guys are going to speak their mind. They're going to act out in a way that where they're going to, even if Ja didn't act out in that way, maybe he would have said something that would have let it be known that he's unhappy. I guarantee you if Ja Morant was unhappy, he would just not be just laying back in the cut, not letting it be known that he wants some changes either in the organization.
I guess let me
or
say
wherever.
here's the point what I'm trying to make.
I know what point you're
Players
making.
that I feel that are great and have that innate competitor in them, when things aren't going their way, when whatever's happening, they look at themselves and they
Now you're
say,
making it like I'm
"What can
really
I do?"
taking up for
No, I'm
Zion,
saying
when
what
I've
what
talked
can
about
I
some of the
do
things he could have
more?
done better.
You know, instead of saying, "Well, this
when
situation,
he
this
gets
part of the
healthy,
situation
we'll
isn't
see.
right. The head
When he
coach
gets
isn't
healthy, we'll
right.
see. And like
I've
I
been
said-
injured."
like
I
I
get
said,
that.
he
But
should
at
have
some
said
point, they
something
become
to
excuses and not
McCollum.
reasons.
Well, we talked about that. We talked about that 20 minutes ago. And again, I said that he should have said something to McCollum. He didn't. I even made the point about LeBron and Andrew Wiggins. So I agree with that point. But he's trying to find his way out of town, and let's not act like this is something new with a lot of these players. A lot of these same players pull some of that same stuff who we actually laud for being great competitors and this or that. So it happens, and I'm not trying to exonerate him from any wrongdoing in the situation. I'm just saying, in my opinion, let's let him get healthy, see what happens, and we'll see. Now, you see your boy real quick, Eddie. You see, well, not real quick. I mean, we have some time. But Aaron Rodgers back at it again.
Why is that a surprise? We still don't know.
Hey,
what's going
Skrilla,
to
man,
happen.
it's burning up in here, bro.
Still don't know what's going to
God
happen
damn.
with, with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. But there's one thing I know for sure: Aaron Rodgers is going to make them think that there's always going to be a chance that he's going to go somewhere else, and that's how he's going to squeeze,
Yeah.
as much, not just money, but power in the organization. That's how he's going to squeeze as much
100%
as
agree.
he can out of them by always threatening to move on.
I'm Greg, this Eddie, the sports court.
Now, if he does move on, where to? I don't know.
Well, we talked about some AFC teams.
Yeah, we talked about some places where they might be willing to trade him, but I'm not so sure if things start to get ugly if they don't play real hard ball with him, and then just you end up having a Deshaun Watson-like situation
talk
in
about that
Green
in a second,
Bay.
too.
With
Eddie?
Aaron Rodgers, while Jordan Love, the Jordan Love era begins.
Now, now,
Whatever
now, do
the
I
hell
have to
that's
say-
going to entail, I don't know.
Now, do I have to say I told you so? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because it hasn't happened yet as far as the Jordan Love and as far as the Aaron Rodgers actually getting out of town, because really the head coach and they would really like to see Aaron Rodgers move on so they could start anew with Jordan Love. But of course, he's just coming off another MVP season, so that would sound crazy for me to say that they're thinking like that. I tell you like this. Now, every time, that tweet he put it out and how eloquent it was and all this and that, you know that's Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, he's trying to keep Green Bay honest and keep them on their toes and what they're doing. Of course, they have to sign Devontae Adams in the next couple of weeks. They may have to franchise tag him, but they have a lot of they're devoid of a lot of cap space. So how are you really going to be able to rebuild that team? You've heard me say over the last couple of years that I thought they were a bit overrated, even though while they were on their way to their way to a division or a conference victory, as far as winning the conference and things of that sort. And I think Aaron Rodgers, he sees, okay, they like to say that it'd be a tougher task getting out of. I mean, it'll be easier for me to do it here. But Aaron Rodgers probably thinking the last 2 years we've went in and we were supposed to go to the Super Bowl the last 2 years and have gotten knocked out. Now you're going to be losing some players due to contract. What makes you think, even though my path you would think in the NFC would be easier from the way things are looking now, you never know what teams are going to merge in the NFC next season, that's going to challenge Green Bay. Of course, I still think my Cowboys, and of course, I can go on and on and on. But San Francisco, of course, the Rams, of course. And the thing about it, he's looking at it like, well, damn, I probably have just as good a shot over there than I do over here with this team. And then if you think about the tweet where he's thanking everybody, he's all eloquent and this and that, also what he's doing, Aaron Rodgers wants to do things outside of the NFL. He would love to be the host of Jeopardy. So he's probably looking at it like, well, Jeopardy haven't made their final decision yet on, I don't think they have at least, on who the next host is going to be, because he co-hosted, I was going to say he ghost hosted. He co-hosted for Jeopardy for a while, And I think he fell in love with that. So he's also trying to show them how intelligent he can be. And look how eloquent I put this. And if you guys still want me on Jeopardy, I may just be available, because if he doesn't play for the Green Bay Packers, they're going to have to trade him. They're going to have to trade him. So he's still under contract with the Packers. But so Denver looks like a good possibility. You brought that up a couple of weeks ago. And,
and
I wasn't crazy about it at the time. The more I thought about it, but Tennessee,
that would be horrible if he went to Tennessee. That would just be god
I know
awful.
you wouldn't like that. Bro.
But it's not just what he says on Twitter. A lot's being made about what he's posting on Instagram. The last post on Instagram just yesterday, I believe it was a picture of the sidelines of the Green Bay Packers. Looks like pregame during the national anthem, and there's a gap in between Cobb and Devontae Adams. That gap is usually filled by one Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. And now you're seeing
trolling ass Aaron Rodgers, troll monster.
Yeah, this is according to Adriana Torres' Twitter. This is the game he missed in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that Aaron Rodgers. It's not just what he says, what he says.
Yeah,
it's
clever.
Pictures. It's other types of posts.
He's a troll. He's a troll, bro.
And so we can speculate. The head coach may feel this way about him. I'm sure there are some feelings that are a little, some feathers that are a little ruffled, because it's not like Aaron.
That's just it.
It's not like Aaron has come out and said 100% like, I want to be here. I want to win a Super Bowl here. We're going to get over the hump.
That's just
He's always been ambiguous about everything, and that's why.
Right. And see, let me chime in. That's why I always say
it's got to be going both ways.
That's why I say you never really know what's going on behind the scenes, too, is because if he was so, notice every time he does something, he thanks the head coach. That's one of the ones he thanks all the time. And I'm sure they don't have a contentious relationship. I'm sure they get along. But I honestly feel at this point, and mere speculation on my part, I'm not Aaron Rodgers, but I honestly feel that as much as Matt LaFleur vouches for him in the public and in the media, Aaron Rodgers, this is the second year in a row where they're back doing, okay, well, last year was because he wanted more input and this and that. So I'm sure that Aaron Rodgers is able to see, I like my coach. We do get along. But I think Aaron Rodgers is able to see, too, like, I bet this guy really wants me gone so he could start anew and really.
Well, sometimes, like I mentioned before.
And I don't think it's something that's going to be said by nobody, because Matt LaFleur can't say it. Obviously, the Packers can't say it. You're talking about a guy that just won his second MVP in a row, 4-time MVP. So how would you look? How would the optics of that look with you coming out there saying, that you really want to cut ties with Aaron Rodgers? But I bet you Aaron Rodgers senses that in Matt LaFleur, and maybe some other people, that they really want me to move on. And honestly, I kind of want to move on. But at the same time, I know they can't say that publicly. So let me do what I have to do as far as touching other areas as well. Like I said, I want to keep these people at jeopardy. I want to keep them interested in my possible services as well. So just let me run the whole gamut. Yeah, football season is not in right now, but I'm going to make sure that football season stays in as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned. So who knows where he's going to end up.
No, I'm telling you, over time, like you mentioned, of course, they're not going to say they want to get rid of Aaron Rodgers.
No doubt.
They want Aaron Rodgers to commit. They wish he would just verbally commit, and I guarantee you they want him as their quarterback. But also, there is so many instances right now, after all this time, where you're getting a lot of this from Matt LaFleur. A lot of roll in the eyes, just because, at some point, are you going to shut up and play football or what? I understand you're great, but he is the biggest prima donna in the league right now.
I totally agree with that.
And there are a lot of people in the business that would just rather not deal with it. And
I think a lot of that is premeditated.
I think
a lot of that is calculated.
I think they'd be okay either way. They're like, Aaron, if you really want to go, go.
That's my point.
But we want you here. But if you were here, would you please shut the hell up and just win a Super Bowl? No, they're not going to. But
they know they're not going to shut him up.
That's the reason why they would be okay with moving on from him. Yes, because at some point in time,
I think also part of the reason is them wanting to move on so they can go ahead and mold Jordan Love and get this Aaron Rodgers, because everything that happens with Green Bay is about Aaron Rodgers. Now you can sit over there and say,
I guarantee you, if he wasn't as vocal, they wouldn't be ready to move on.
Well, let me
not at all.
Say this. And maybe he's at a point in his career where he just want to try out a different city. And I'm sure he loves Green Bay, but like I said, you went to both years, you won the championship. You're probably going to get worse as far as talent-wise this offseason. So let me check some other options. Let me keep them on their toes. But, of course, he's going to talk, and he's going to say what he's going to say in the media. That's Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, he just won the MVP last season. So I think if anybody has the right to be a prima donna, it's Aaron Rodgers, who's coming off 2 back-to-back
But
MVPs.
look at it like a marriage, Greg. If you gonna talk about Kelly Shanahan from San Francisco, then why don't you go be with her ass? You know, if you're gonna talk about
Well, he
whoever
probably
from
wants to, but
Denver,
they will have to trade him.
then why don't you want to go?
They would
About
have to trade him.
don't walk around the house and talk about how hot the neighbor's
know,
wife
I know,
is,
but
or how
see,
hot the girl across the
but
street
you're acting
is.
like you're
If you
surprised.
really don't want to
Acting like you're
go,
surprised that that's how things are done. That's how business is operated these days. I mean, we're even talking about it with the Zion situation in a different way, but that's just how these players operate these days. Because at the end of the day,
well, no, he could be
at
just like
their
Deshaun
dollars
Watson and
cents.
say, hey, I'm not playing for Green Bay again. Y'all need to trade me. Boom. Draw a line in the sand and say, this is what I want. Give me that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Both of those guys, both them and Green Bay, in my opinion,
Why
they're playing games
he's
right
playing
now.
cat and mouse? Yeah,
I mean, they're playing games.
At some
I mean,
point in
that's what
time,
I
that
said.
gets old.
I mean, that's what I said.
Trust
Well,
me.
I mean,
If they want to
mean,
win, like if they
he
want to
just won
win
the
big,
MVP.
of course they want to keep Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, so why don't he tell them then if you're saying that he should say, look, I don't want to be here. Now, why you want him to make himself be the bad guy? Of course you want honesty and all this and that, but why can't Green Bay be honest? Like I'm saying about Matt LaFleur and them guys really want him out of there. Why can't they be honest?
Because I don't think they want him out there. They want him to shut up.
No, I don't think that. I think they want him to be who he is.
If he was a deaf mute that won 4 MVPs, he would retire a Green Bay Packer.
Why would they want Aaron Rodgers to shut up as far as the dude just won the MVP? What they need to be doing, they need to be either doing what they plan to do as far as acquiescing to the MVP's demands or his wants to at least some degree, or letting him move on if you're sensing that he doesn't want to be there, and you really don't want him there anyway, but you're worried about the public hit and the public perception and all this and that. How about they both just become honest and be honest and say, why don't Green Bay say, hey, you know what? We're going to acquiesce to his wishes and trade him. You know,
Because ultimately they don't want to get rid of him.
they will, because those kind of quarterbacks don't grow on trees. But I think low key they really do.
If you
but
want
they
something,
can't come
though.
out and say that because again, the logical way of thinking. Nick the Quick, what's up with you? I see you rocking that polo, boy. What you know about that? But the logical way of thinking would suggest that, yeah, they don't want to get rid of him. See, that's what I'm saying. Of course, logically, from the outside looking in,
But whenever-
of course they don't want to get rid of him.
Whenever
Let them tell it.
you're putting stuff on social media like this, you're creating a narrative
They need to stay their ass off
that's
social
not
media.
in line
I
with
think social media is whack.
the direction the team's trying to
that
go.
tweeting and
That
shit.
just doesn't affect the Green Bay Packers front office and Aaron Rodgers. That affects every player on that team. That affects team
Talked about
morale.
it last
It
season.
affects
We talked about it last season.
it affects everything going on with the team. So it sort of puts your team in limbo when the team can't move
Same
forward
thing,
collectively because they don't know who the
And I
quarterback's
agree with
going
that.
to be.
I agree with that, but that's just him. That's him conducting business the way he see fit to fit himself. But the same thing you're saying, I said it.
Yeah,
I
that's
said
like
it
that's
when I was
like
criticizing him
a
last year.
significant other being like, oh, it's fine, and then just tapping her foot real loud and waiting to see
Well,
if
I'm
you're
saying,
gonna
no,
go
but it's no
anyway.
surprise.
You can go. It's
no
fine.
surprise because he did the same thing.
And then when you
last
walk your
season.
ass out the door,
So-
they're like, damn
But
it,
it's, yeah. And see, it's no surprise.
your ass is grass.
It's no surprise because he did the same thing last season. Nigga, I was telling him
Hey,
about my boy sending us this video.
he's not going anywhere,
when I
that's
was
why.
well, maybe he's gonna stay there.
He's not going anywhere.
Maybe he's gonna stay there.
But if ultimately you're not going to go
He's not
anywhere,
gonna
Kim,
win.
this is what I say. Just
He's
get
not
me
gonna
to the
win.
point. Like, get to the point.
If he doesn't go anywhere, he's not going to win over there in Green Bay. In my opinion, his chances of winning, Eddie, again, you're talking about the MVP from last season, bro. You're not talking about chopped liver. You're talking about Aaron Rodgers.
I told
So
you what I
wherever
think it
he's
is.
playing, wherever he's playing, he's
Look,
going to
I told you what I think it is. Look,
so don't get it
for
twisted.
me,
I was telling him
I told
about
you
the-
what I think it is. I think they need to be a lower seed in the playoffs and not have all them
Speaking of lower
home
seed,
games and play
what
either in a
about Juwan
dome
Howard,
stadium
bro?
or somewhere where it's warm
What about Juwan Howard?
in the playoffs. You get where I'm going before we take a quick right turn?
I really don't
Because
care
I
what
think
Aaron
I
Rodgers
think
does,
that
tell
all
the truth.
those home playoff games, I don't think he's as good in that environment
No, the
anymore.
team, Green Bay is not as good. That's what I told you. I've been telling you that for years. So I would get out of Green Bay if I'm him. Now, they both need to come, they're both trying to hold on because of public relations and how the public is going to view it and all this and that. Man, I'm like you. If you don't want to be there, just say that. But, of course, that's not how he's conducting business right now. But at the same token, if Green Bay really don't want him there, we can say, yeah, they really want him.
I'm not so sure about that. Then they should actually, hey, this feel
Greg
like that
peeing on my
Sanford
leg and telling me
Hey,
it's raining.
This feel like that Sanford and Son. No, I'm not. I'm telling you the real. I'm telling you the real, homeboy. This feel like that Sanford and Son episode when I was telling you about that party we was having that my boy sent me in Columbus, and Donald was over there. They bought Fred that. You too young to remember this, Nick. They bought Fred that pool table, and all his boys is over there all night. They playing pool. His girlfriend Donna say, "Well, Fred, how long are they gonna be here?" Fred say, "I guess until they leave." So it's a party, baby. This how we do it. Hey. So Eddie, man, hey. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers does. What's your take on Juwan Howard?
Juwan Howard. Not surprised. Juwan Howard. He's been a hothead before. Great coach.
You can take the nigga out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the hood.
I think he's I think he's a fantastic coach. But this kind of behavior rubs off on young men, young individuals that are very impressionable under his under his control and on that team.
It can rub out two ways.
And not even just that. Like, I mean, these kids, some of those players, I know Juwan's big, but he's an older cat. Mm-hmm. Some of these players could hurt, a coach or another player just by following their coach's lead.
Yeah.
I thought that I don't think he should have been fired, but I thought that the punishment ultimately was pretty weak.
Yeah.
I think he should have been suspended for the remainder of the season, including the tournament.
Right.
Now I know that hurts the players maybe more than it hurts him. I don't know, but I feel like a 5-game suspension really a big time slap on the wrist, especially when you've displayed this type of behavior before.
He has, and see that's the thing right there. Now maybe Juwan Howard, maybe at this point, and I agree. I thought the 5 games was a slap on the wrist, and I do not think he should have been fired. I think the way Michigan is looking at it, partly, of course, they came out and said and talked about, the president came out and talked about his displeasure for what he was doing and his actions. And the fact that Juwan Howard played at Michigan, now what he needs to be more concerned with is the fact that they're 14-11 this year. So he can get away with that to some degree, not to that extent what he did, but you can't ever put your hands on somebody like that, unprovoked, so to speak, where they didn't, attack you first. But again, that's just him just getting caught up in the moment. And again, that wasn't his first time in an altercation on the sideline right there. I think the way the Michigan brass is looking at it partly is, okay, he played at the University of Michigan. He's part of the Fab Five. I mean, that's kind of part of who he is. Now, granted, that's kind of that's partly where he's from. Granted, he's our leader. He's our head coach. We don't want him acting like that. Hopefully, Juwan Howard realizes, okay, I did what I had to do as far as if he's thinking, well, I don't know. But hopefully he realizes now you cannot do anything like that
There was a late timeout called by Wisconsin, and Wisconsin was already winning. By a large amount. There's late timeout called. It ruffled some feathers on the Michigan sideline, in particular with Juwan Howard. Juwan Howard in the handshake line, approaches the head coach of Wisconsin. There's some words. Coaches are getting involved. One coach goes to put their hands on Juwan Howard to hold him back or to sort of brace him, and Juwan Howard sort of lost it.
Yeah. Hey, like I say,
right. But you have to have a cooler. You got to have a cooler head whenever you're the guy. He's not some assistant coach or whatever. He's the guy.
I agree.
He's the face of that program.
That's why I'll say now, after those 2 incidents, now granted, okay, that's part of who you are, and you've shown that's part of who you are. But now it's about keeping your job, and with you being the leader of that team, you cannot. And a lot of these players are looking at it, I'm going to tell you right now, trust me, a lot of these players are also looking at it like, okay, coach can't do something like that because we like him and he's going to lose his job. But at the same time, some of them are looking at it like, we have a coach that will fight for us and he's not going to take any mess. And like the president of Michigan and some of these Michigan people, they're hoping, because there's a positive in everything if you really look at it. And I think they're hoping that maybe some of that fighting spirit rubs off on the Michigan players, and they know how to channel it in the right direction, realizing and being intelligent enough for them to realize that, of course, with him being in the position that he's in, he can't do anything like that. Hopefully, Coach realizes he can't do anything like that again, and he has to realize that as well. But at the same time, he's the type of guy. He's the type of guy. He's gonna keep it 100. He's gonna keep it real, and he's gonna fight for us. But again, like I said, I'm not trying to say that if a situation occurs again, he needs to take a swipe at a person. That's not what I'm saying at all.
It just shows
He can't do
it
that.
shows too much lack of control
It does. It
for
does.
someone in
It
that
does.
position. You know, if you want to be a booster, go
And-
be a booster. You
and he
can
made his
maybe you can get
apology
away with
about it.
stuff like that, but not as
Right.
the head basketball coach.
And he made his apology about it. Yeah, man,
now,
I agree. I agree.
real quick before we get out of here, I don't know if you heard, but there was an offer
heard?
that emerged. Rumors out that there's an offer being offered for Deshaun Watson on the table right now. It has
Uh-oh.
Ohio State ties to it, so I know you'll be interested.
Talk to me.
No, the Washington Commanders have offered a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick in the following draft in 2023, and Chase Young
Whoa.
for Deshaun Watson.
Say that again. First round pick.
A
second
first-round pick, a second-round pick, both in 2022. That'll be this year's draft. That would be I think it's the 11th pick or the 13th pick, and then the 42nd pick, I want to say. 43rd pick. I think it's the 11th and the 43rd.
Okay. Plus Chase Young.
Plus Chase Young for Deshaun Watson. For me, right now, as I look at it, it almost sounds appetizing because, you know, Texans fans are just ready for something to be had, something to be done with Deshaun Watson. You get this if you don't
about
use
the
it,
civil
you
case now.
lose it kind of feeling.
Yeah,
And I'll leave that off to the side and just talk about it from a purely football perspective for right now. Because that does factor
And he
into
sat
it.
out of years, so he should
But
be healthy.
you know, if that's the first offer
Should be
that
fresh.
one of the first offers that surfaces that teams are going with, I think it's only going to get a lot better. You know, the
what's up.
Texans are
That's
targeting
what's up.
3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. If you
Well, that's-
look at that deal, essentially, in my mind, I look at that as 2 first-round picks. You're getting Chase
Yeah,
Young, though he was a high
absolutely.
pick, and you're getting that one
Even though he's coming off
first.
a knee injury, we know these days.
If you want to make that trade work, I think you got to throw in some real good sweeteners. Probably another first round pick, or maybe a guy like Terry McLaurin. Then you can maybe try to make this trade work. You package
I like that Terry
up
McLaurin. Ohio State.
Watson and Brandon Cooks, and you send them over to Washington for Chase Young, Terry McLaurin, and a couple of first round picks. That now we're starting to make some sense there. But the Commanders are first that I know to let a legit offer surface, and it has superstar ties. Now Chase Young, I don't think he's anywhere close to reaching his potential yet, but there's certainly a lot of meat on that bone, and I know the Texans
Absolutely.
would love to have him. I just think the offer is going to have to be a little bit steeper,
little bit
Greg.
sweeter than that?
Yeah.
I got you. And you know what? That's the initial offer or the first team that's really, because we should get more clarity on the Deshaun Watson situation as far as this civil case, and now the judge has ruled that he could be deposition. I mean, he can give his deposition.
He'll be deposed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of Fifth Amendment.
Right, because he don't want to say anything with the criminal charges pending.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to say anything. So, but as far as on the football field, that would be something right there, because that's why I asked you last week, Eddie. I said, do the Texans want to try to lure, with the hiring of Lovie Smith, whether you
With
want to
Deshaun
think
back into the
Lovie is a
fold?
token coach or whatever. He has a lot of pedigree, and I know Lovie is like, hey, as long as there's a lot of tokens on that damn check every 2 weeks, hey, you call the token hotline, like, yeah, I'm applying for the token coach job. But Deshaun, we shall see, man. I mean, hey, we shall see, and a lot to be played out. But obviously, the Texans, if they're entertaining that offer, they want to rebuild. And that's a nice way to start with Chase Young, Terry McLaurin. So you have a defensive player and you have an offensive player. And kudos to
Just to be clear,
Brian
Terry wasn't part of
Flores.
the deal. Terry was part of my deal. That was the deal they offered was Chase Young, first round, second
You
round,
sweetened it up a
and a
little bit,
third
huh?
round. What
I
I'm
got
saying is it would have to include a guy like
have to
Terry
include
McLaurin,
that. Okay, I got you.
to make it
Okay.
work.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
you can send
You're
him B.
probably right
Cooks,
about that.
send him B.
You're probably
Cooks.
right
Yeah,
about that.
he's a veteran, but you send him somebody who's serviceable. If you want to
That
make a
gonna make your
Deshaun
team
Watson
better right
trade
now.
happen, you're going to have to make that deal, that pot of coffee, a lot more sweeter than a lot of the other teams around the league that are starting to get
That's true.
desperate.
That's
I mean,
true.
when I hear teams
Especially with a
throwing
name
out
like
a line
especially with a name like the
and trying to
Commanders, you
reel
better
in a
sweeten
Kirk
up.
Cousins, like
Yeah.
the Carolina offering trade offers for Kirk Cousins right now. That tells me some of these teams are going to start to get desperate when they realize Brady isn't coming back. Aaron Rodgers
the
ultimately
combine,
isn't
right,
going anywhere.
right.
If we want a
And they say
quarterback,
Brady might come back. We shall see.
we may have to go and get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Hey, We shall see, man. We shall see. And Eddie, you know what? Too, before we get out of here, kudos to Mike Tomlin. Now, you've heard me speak. You've heard us both speak highly of Mike Tomlin. But one thing Mike Tomlin had never done, which was brought to my attention recently, and I actually hadn't realized this because I would have, hey, the show where we keep it 100% of the time, the sports court, I would have been brought this up, but he just hired his first coordinator since he's been there in his tenure. And so now he's letting his actions speak for his words. And the fact he hired Brian Flores, who's actually overqualified for the position that they hired him in, but the fact that he has a job and he's on the staff, Mike Tomlin brought him in. Now Mike Tomlin this season has hired a black offense coordinator, I think if I'm not mistaken, and a defense coordinator. So he's changing that narrative about him not having any black coordinators. If he's gonna be that guy, gonna be that trailblazer, I mean, bro, you got to have you a black coordinator. So he's finally done the right thing in that regard. And of course, he feels that they're qualified. I don't think he's doing it just because they're black. But when you have a chance to get Brian Flores, again, a guy that's overqualified for that position, and you can bring him in, plus it can bolster your public relations and the narrative about you not having any black coaches. But the main thing is it's going to make your team better. That's the main thing. So I like that, and that's good for Brian Flores.
We're going to take a break for 1 week, Greg, and when we get back next week, we're going to be able to evaluate some of the games going on in the NBA. I'm going to take a deeper look at the Houston Rockets and what's next for them after they fail to make moves at the trade deadline. And let's hope we all wake up tomorrow. It is 22-22, which I don't know.
Legends live and
I'd
let
imagine
live.
there's like a movie or something they made about some stuff like that before.
Hey,
But
man, have fun, bro, like we always do.
Two-piece Tuesday.
Keep on rising to the top.
Two-piece Tuesday.
We'll be back. Hey, I know you like that. I might stop and give me a double Whopper. How about that? I was going to get you a double Whopper, man. Still might do that anyway.
You
can
a
still get
Whopper
you-
eating, smacking son of a
Hey,
gun.
the sports court. Legends live and let live.
Peace.